Hello, I just want to start off with a little story about what happened to me when I was younger. I was only about 6, and I had to go into hospital for an operation. And what happened is I was lying there in a hospital bed, just 6 years old, wondering what was going on, knowing that I needed an operation. And I was there for about 2 or 3 days before the operation, and I noticed, I woke up and I noticed all the other children in the ward were being fed. And, they had the main course, and I thought, well, just wait on, they'll bring some to me in a minute. And then that went over, and nobody approached me or said anything to me, and I was just watching there, lying there watching. And then they brought ice creams round, and they gave ice creams to everybody else in the ward, and everybody was saying, oh, delightful ice creams and everything. And again, nobody approached me, and I felt the tears welling up, and I looked behind me and I saw this sign, and I worked it out to myself what it said, and it said nil by mouth, and I had no idea what it meant, and nobody had explained it to me. And sorry, that's the dog coughing. And nobody had explained it to me, and I thought, well, there must be something about that sign that means that I don't get an ice cream, but I don't know what. And I was lying there crying, and still nobody came up to me. And eventually someone, I caught someone's attention like hours later, and I was absolutely in tears, not crying out loud. So I wasn't but just feeling inner turmoil and like tears rolling down my cheeks, and nobody had noticed. And eventually, I got this nurse's attention, and she came up, and I said, well, how come I'm not allowed any ice cream? And she said, well, you're nil by mouth. That's that sign there, nil by mouth, you see. But she didn't explain still what it meant, or that it was because nobody was allowed to eat anything before they had an operation because of the anaesthetic. She didn't explain that. So I was still there thinking, well, it's something about this sign, but what about it? I don't understand still. And I was very, very, very upset. And, I've been thinking lately and getting a little bit angry about it, actually, that, well, I'll start from the well-known saying that knowledge is power, but for years and years and years, 20 years, I've never been given any knowledge properly about my own condition, or what the psychiatrists say my condition is. And, this is hugely frustrating to me, and I think they've done it on purpose, and it is an abuse, and they've done it on purpose to keep their authority with their knowledge, and as an abuse of power. It may be that they thought some elements might distress me, but not really. I think it's been an abuse, and I think they've done that on purpose to try and hold on to their authority, and to stop me having the autonomy to be treated as a person with which they can discourse properly. And it's enabled them to treat me as an object, because I've lacked the knowledge that they have been keeping to themselves. I don't think, maybe it was 20 years ago, they didn't know as much about the subject as they do know today, in which case they were also concealing their ignorance. But for years and years, like I was never told that schizophrenia usually sort of that was divided into negative symptoms and positive symptoms. Just something as fundamental as that. I was never told that schizophrenics usually die 20 years or so before everybody else. Like things that I feel as though I have a right to know. I remember my psychiatrist writing down on a piece of paper, because I did look at my notes at one point, and he jotted down ideas of reference, and I had no idea what. Again, like nil by mouth when I was 6, I had no idea what ideas of reference were, and he never offered to explain it to me. And it's only since I've been doing this blog and looked up sort of different types of delusions and found an informative piece on different types of delusions that I can now understand what ideas of reference are. And that is hugely important and beneficial, because the next time that may happen, I can look upon it objectively and be my own psychiatrist. I can say to myself, well, that's the idea as a reference thing again then. And I have that tool to be able to do that. And, I think it's hugely important to be able to. Again, I watched a video the other day, I'm going to include it on my blog, that talks about, well, it shows different brain images of people with schizophrenia and different. One of the things that the man talks about is a filter that's sort of missing in the brain at the base of the brain, sometimes missing. For example, if you don't have much sleep or whatever, and that noises and he uses an example of a fan in a room or whatever for the projector or whatever. Things like that would normally be filtered out by the brain. You'd have a signal saying, well, that's happening, and then another signal saying, yes, well, I know to ignore that now, found out what it is. That other signal doesn't necessarily work properly, and you can easily get distracted by passing traffic. Everything feels like a new noise, there's a new alert. You don't have that kind of filter where you think, oh well, that's just that. But now I know about this filter thing. Then the other day, in fact, I hadn't had some sleep for a while, and I woke up in the morning and there was a loud banging behind me in a van or whatever. And I knew that I was slightly more sensitive to it than I am normally. And then I just thought to myself, oh, well, that's the filter problem. And it was fine. As soon as I'd thought that and, recognised that, then all the other things that happened in the morning, I was able to just think, well, that's the filter problem. And eventually, I went for a picnic in the afternoon, and it was beautiful. There was a cool breeze, but the sun was out, and it was lovely, and all the trees were rustling and everything. And I was able to relax, and the oversensitivity went away. But I had been able to deal with that because I'd been given a new lever in my mind and a new sort of recognition and focus and some of the criteria that I could apply to it. And I just think it's radically important that I have now been given the tools to do that, and found out so much through writing my blog, and I really want to share that with other people. The dogs just sat on the phone. Just mind out, Lucy. Right, okay. What's up with this now? There we are. So yeah, I think it's radically important that I've been able now to sort of assimilate all that lot, I want to share it with as many people as I can that have are in a similar boat, because I do think that the more informed we are as patients, then the more we will be able to stand up for ourselves, and have proper discussions with the psychiatrists and staff, different nurses and CPNs and all the rest of it,